Hi, Assalamualaikum. Let's start with introduction of environmental policy. What is public policy? Public policy is a complex process that involves many participants with different roles, interests, and resources. What is environment? Environment is everything that around us, such as water, animal, plant, oil, sea, land, and many more. Why environmental policy is important? Environmental policy is important because it guides public to love the environment and also to prevent and control any problems that may lead to the damage of environment. Let's discuss about the policy problems. I choose 5 policy problems. First, wastewater. Any water that have been contaminated by human use water from any combination of domestic, industrial, commercial or agriculture activities, surface runoff or storm water and any sewer inflow or sewer infiltration. Generally, rivers in Malaysia have high organic pollution because of 3 traditional industries. First, the mining, second, natural rubber, and third, palm oil. Second point is air pollution. Presence of substance in the atmosphere that are harmful to the health of human and other living beings or cause damage to the climate or to materials. One of the main cause is pollutant from combustion of fossil fuels emitted by vehicle like cars, motorcycle. Third point is endangered species. A species that is very likely to become extinct in the near future, either worldwide or in particular political jurisdiction. Endangered species is at risk because of habitat loss, poaching, and invasive species. Dumping toxic waste in rivers or the sea leads to a variety of marine life, death, and further damage the marine food chain. Fourth, environmental degradation. The deterioration of environment through depletion of resources such as air, water, and soil, the destruction of ecosystem, habitat destruction, the extinction of wildlife, and pollution. When natural habitats are destroyed or natural resources are depleted, the environment is degraded. Lastly is solid waste management. The collecting, treating, and disposing of solid material that is discarded because it has served its purpose or is no longer useful. It includes the activities and action required to manage waste from its inception to its final disposal. Due to growing population and increasing consumption, Malaysia generates waste at 19 tons per day.
Hi, I'm Cameron. I'm your next presenter. Next, we will talk about main objective and goal of the policy. The goal of environment policy is to maintain healthy and clean environment for our next generation, continue to grow to be healthy and continue our legacy. The goal of the environment policy is, as we can see, is focusing on the next generation. The thing is, the environment policy is about the future. What the result of the future, not for our present now, because what we do now it can be impact for our next generation, and because of that they create the environment policy for our next future. Next, the objective of environment to balance the goal for socio-economic development and the need to bring the benefit of development to a wide spectrum of the population against the maintenance of sound environmental conditions. To minimize the impact of growing population and human activities relating to mineral exploration, agriculture, tourism, and the development of other resources of environment. So the government create this policy to control the socio-economic development, because the human activities like mineral exploration is very actively do their jobs, because the Malaysian needs to find the new mineral to make more money, of course. And other than that, we must know why this policy is made for the future. Because if we not if the government not control the socio-economic development, day by day the nature resource being reduced drastically because of the human activities, and because of that the next generation will face the much more or the bigger disaster, the nature disaster like flood, landslide, and more. And because of that, now the government create the environment policy to make sure that the future, the next generation future is secure their safety, and they can make much better for their future.
Hi, welcome to 4.0 Actors in Creation of the Policy. As we know, there is five policy actors: political executive, legislature, government agency, political parties, and civil society. But here I choose government agencies, so there is three government agencies that I choose. Department of Environment, the institution and legal background as well as the renewed commitment to environmental policy goal placed in 55th Malaysia Plan in 1986 to 1990. And its earlier guidelines set the scene for the creation of more coherent effort to attack environmental problem. The operational of policy enforcement have been shouldered by the Department of Environment. Second is Environmental Quality Council. It is functional part of the council to provide the development sector and proper advice and suggest environmental strategies most suits to their needs rather than highlighting their views with regards to EQA regulation only. Environment Quality Council also duties to advise the minister in charge of the environment on matters relating to the enforcement. The third one is Environment Institute of Malaysia, (IMAS). Program implemented by IMAS will provide opportunities to DOA to partner other interested parties, especially industrial sector in Malaysia, which among others are responsible for environmental pollution in the country. Environment Institute of Malaysia also responsible for monitoring the project of development to maintain the same condition.
Okay, so next is the implementation of the environmental policy. Our country have gathered to make a strategy uh, to implement the policy of the environment for the environmental strategy policy, that is by making such campaign and program to to given the public to realize about the importance of our environmental. So some of the strategy that have been made by the policy is love some of the example is love our river campaign. So love our river campaign was firstly launched by the Department of Irrigation and Drainage Malaysia. The idea at about year of 1993. The idea of this campaign was objectively of was about to educate people about the crucial and the importance of the river and why we should care about our environment. That is to increase awareness among the public on the need to conserve the natural environment, preserve river, and while at it, some of the campaign program that have been implemented, that is such as the river adoption and the river expedition. As for the river adoption, it has launched in 1993. The objective count as a success in by gaining the continuous the beautification of the river by the country. And the river expedition was also part of the plan by Emily to gain awareness to the general public about the using of media such as the internet, newspaper, and also the television. People as as an plot. It used as a platform to spread the message around the country. Some of the rivers that were involved by the expedition was Sungai Perak, Sungai Lipis, and also Rompin Endau National Park in Pahang. Next is the environmental awareness campaign that was being held in 2007. The environmental awareness campaign have been triggered by the Minister of Natural Resources and Environment, that is Datuk Sri Azmi Khalid. It is to gain interest and to educate the general public about the good and also the importance of environmental awareness. Some of the plan and activities that have been held was, as an example, is gotong royong activity, waste management, education and awareness. River reservation and also cleaning the beach was the implementation of for the awareness. It is shown to be a success and would be a great example to make an awareness for the public. The third strategy is no plastic bag program. In about few years ago, our country has started to realize about the waste and the danger about the plastic bag since the beginning of the campaign of no plastic bag that was held and initiated by the Selangor government. The purpose and the aim of this program is to nurture the spirit of love for this land, could be used as a daily habit, and also to protect the wild animal. The program of the No Plastic Day also accompany and also have been supported by the organization and major supermarkets such as Giant, Tesco's, Speedmart, and also 7-Eleven. The Ministry of Domestic Trade Corporation and Consumer Affairs has supported this program by announcing that every Saturday will be considered as No Plastic Bag Day. And this is show that the environmental policy has shown that they have made enough implementation to show that it is a good strategy and as a good example to show and to make for the public to aware that about the importance of environment. So next is about the evaluation on the effectiveness of the policy. So some of the establishment of the policy is the public are more aware of their surrounding and also environment. Secondly is they can improve the health of public regarding on the healthy environment without pollution. Thirdly, the ecosystem become maintained and balanced. And lastly, it also reduce the cases of wild animal death.
Okay, now we go to the next part, the policy, strength, and weakness. First of all, the existence of Environment Act 1974 had become one of the factors that make this policy strong and established. The enforcement of law can be made if there are people who disobey the provision or regulation that had been made under this policy. For example, when a person may disobey a regulation related to environment, for instance littering at the public place, that person cannot escape from paying a fine because if they fail to do, there will be action taken upon that person which had been stipulated in the Act. Environment policy is this policy obtain full support and involvement from various ministries in the government. They had taken serious action in implementing this policy. The ministry and government agencies that often involve implementing environment policy and Ministry of Natural Resource, Environment Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, Ministry of Energy, Green Technology and Water, and many more. In the first paragraph, we will see that they actually uh, they actually say that what how the policy can become can have the strength. It's all because the existence of Environment Act 1974. If the citizen of Malaysia make a damage in our environment in Malaysia, they will not run from the fine that had from paying a fine, because if they fail to do the action means the police will find them and make them pay what they have to. I give you as example in Selangor. Selangor, as we know at Selangor, we have very complicated about the water. Why the water always have the trouble means that as we know at the Twitter or Instagram or in media, this sometimes or not sometimes probably probably Selangor frequently has no water because of the water pollution at the Selangor River. Selangor River, as we know, there they have one company that make the water pollution and makes Selangor people did not have the water because of their factories. So because of that, Selangor, the MB Selangor has directly asked the NGOs to search who whoever the company who is make the Selangor River become a water pollution must take the action. Maybe take the responsibility. What have they done? Because for me as Selangor people is very important for me because it related to the water that we have every day, every second we drink the water from the river. So that's one example of why the environmental policy have strength in Malaysia. But as we know, always when we have strength, we also have the weakness. The environment policy weakness is lack of publicity because it is undeniable that lots of ministry and government agencies take part in implementing environment policy by way they organize and launch many activities related to the environment, but they are less published to the public. Citizens, especially those who live in rural areas, know only few activities and programs that had been pub- publicized through the main channel of media like television, radio, and also newspaper. For example, there are people who live in rural areas are not aware of the existence of no plastic bag. They still asking for bag for plastic bag when they purchase good on Saturday. This thing is always we focusing for poor people and people who did not catch up with not keep updating their news in social media. Other than that, the enforcement of law, they are the rules and regulation formulated in order to control the behavior of people in order to protect the environment under environment policy. But the sanction of these rules and regulation are not seriously being done. The enforcement of law regarding environment in Malaysia is not as serious as compared to our neighbor Singapore. In that country, serious action taken to each the public who disobey the rule and regulation. So for this part, they they talk about Singapore. Why Singapore? Because if we have been at Singapore, If we throw one only rubbish in their road, we suddenly get be fined by their police. Because of what? Because of their rule are very strict in Singapore. Because they really take care of their environment so strictly. Not like Malaysian. If we put the signboard very bigger than our house, maybe saying that you will be fine if you throw the rubbish or the anything that you can recycle anywhere, you get fined 5,000. And they throw it. Then they really throw at the signboard, you know. So that's mean that the law of environment in Malaysia is not quite strictly. It's not strictly as the Singapore. So that is some of mean the update or the improvement that can be made for Malaysia. Maybe become more strictly for Malaysian citizens to make sure they keep the cleanest in our country, like Singapore. Okay, for 8.0, we will talk about recommendation, policies and strategy for the improvement of the environment require continuous strength of an institutional and legal framework with official environmental standard in terms of enacting code of regulation basis to define secondary standard to facilitate updating and improving the regulation as well as enforcement. The government must be prepared to promote active public participation to ensure successful implementation of environmental policies and legislation. So, the government should attract more people using the publication in media means like television, radio, and newspaper. So at this point, we know that we'll actually know why we talk about this because of many of young people will already exposed by the media or social media, and because of that, the government also must be modern like the youth people, so that they must do in the social media to attract the young people because nowadays not very many young people is very not very about the importance of their environment so that they can make our next generation can get the life better. The environmental protection legislation must focus on conservation of natural resources rather than merely focusing on corrective measures. This law must include prevention environmental damage by development activities for planning environmental. This part will talk about the damage that have the some company have do when they do the development activities. So the governments must think or must include the give the terms to the company that if they want to do the development activities, they must be have the planning for the environmental which mean is reproduce what they have take like the logging when they do the cut down the trees they must plant the trees back because if they plant tree backs they can grow like the same one. So I mean they have the planning. If they do the damage they must reproduce what they take. The aspect related to overlapping of power between the Environmental Protection Agency can be resolved by establishing one-stop center at federal government level to implement environmental protection measures as well as enforcing of regulation. In this part, we will talk about overlapping powers. So the main overlapping power is like the NGOs. As we know, not every NGOs have a big fund for their NGOs. Some of them have just tiny of fund to their NGOs, and because of that, the overlapping of powers have been taken by most. The company has the most fund I mean money to the take or do the lodging illegally, because of they can just by not by just pay the mysteries, and because of that the agencies, the protection agency we can be resolved by establish one stop center to be at the federal government level, to make that the the agencies is more powerful, and they can protect the environment, and environment more secure, more strongly, and cannot be explored illegally without the permission. So I think that's all for me, and we continue to next presenter and our last Haikal.
So lastly, as conclusion, the issue that this environmental policy is still relevant to be continued because it is one of the good policy to implement in our country that can be used. Throughout this policy, we will also be able to support and to preserve and conserve our old world. And lastly, in that, we can show that it can encourage the public, the citizen, to be more appreciate and realize about the nature and about how we are going to pass on the generation that for the world to have a better environment. Next, for some due to some weakness, this policy might also have to be amended in order to achieve our nation aspiration of becoming a green country. So that is all. Thank you.